Top story at this hour. American investigators have boarded Dolly, the cargo carrier that crashed into the Baltimore bridge early on Tuesday. They have recovered all necessary data, and the probe continues looking into the various possibilities that led to this tragic incident. The rescue work for the 6 missing has also resumed. Among many presented theories, one is the use of contaminated fuel that led to the energy disruption on the ship. Our next report tells you more.
Less than 30 minutes after departing port, lights begin to flicker on this freight carrier. Within seconds, there was a complete blackout and a loud sound of collision. The Baltimore bridge swiftly came crashing down. 6 people who were working on the bridge were killed in the incident. They were part of a road crew working on the bridge. A probe has been ordered in the tragic turn of events, and focus is on one angle. Was contaminated fuel behind the ship losing power and the simultaneous crashing? Investigators have boarded Dolly, the 948-foot-long ship in question, and have recovered data. Dolly, that was supposed to dock in Sri Lanka, remains stuck on a pillar of the collapsed bridge, where it is expected to stay for the coming few weeks.
The team of experts include experts in nautical operations, and what they're going to look at and begin to collect is information on vessel operations, safety history, safety record, the look at the owner, the look at the operator, and the look at the operations this day.
American media citing an unclassified U.S. intelligence report say that the ship lost propulsion as it was leaving port, and the crew on board notified Maryland officials that they had lost control of the vessel. Tuesday's disaster may be the worst U.S. bridge collapse since 2007. Maryland governor has ruled out the terror angle.
The preliminary investigation points to an accident. We haven't seen any credible evidence of a terrorist attack.
The governor said that the crew, all of them Indians, notified about the power issue as soon as they could. The 22 members sounded a mayday call moments before the crash. The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore says that the ship was inspected twice last year at foreign ports. That was in June and September last year. The Dolly passed both inspections, but to notice during the June inspection in Chile, a faulty gauge which monitors fuel pressure was detected and fixed before the ship left the port. The issue was not present in the checks that followed. The port of Baltimore remains closed. More than 1,000 members from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are expected to assist in debris removal to get a shipping channel open. This incident has left a deep mark in the minds of people and is expected to make a deeper dent in the trade economy. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Okay, for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent, Caroline Malone, live from Washington, D.C. She's going to give us an update about what's been happening. Caroline, good to see you. What's the current situation on the ground, and has there been any developments or updates since we last heard authorities talk about rescue operations last night being suspended? Apparently, they're once again doing those operations, trying to retrieve the possible dead bodies of those 6 construction workers still in the water.
Yes, that's right. Well, a search and rescue mission has very much now turned into a search mission for the missing bodies of those 6 workers who were on the bridge at the time of the collision and are now thought, unfortunately, presumed to be dead as a result of this accident. We do also know that investigators have made progress. They said they were waiting for the search and rescue mission to end before they moved in and went onto the ship itself, where all the crew still remain. They have now done that, and they've recovered the black boxes that have crucial data that can give some hints about what happened in the lead up to this collision. We have heard and we've seen from the videos the lights going on and off on that ship before it did collide with the bridge, and the suggestion being that it lost power, it lost electrics. We're hearing now a suggestion that in fact the boat was unable to do anything. It lost all power, it lost all steering, and that those that were piloting the ship even dropped anchor, but at that point there was no way of stopping this collision into the bridge. You know, some of the pilots on board include experts. They include people from the port here who know the area very well and would have been able to do everything that they could in the circumstances, but unfortunately we've ended with this very tragic result.
Very tragic indeed. Caroline, please stay with me. We are also joined by Dr. Ian Rolby. He's a globally recognized maritime expert in law and security, especially identifying and addressing evolving threats. He's joining us from Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. Rolby, thank you so much for joining us. Our heart really goes out to the community in Baltimore and the state of Maryland. I know the issue of these 6 workers is on top of everyone's mind. It's very important. There are other questions being asked as how something like this could possibly happen. And when authorities were asked that yesterday, they sort of brushed it off, saying this is not the time to ask questions like this. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the first priority in any marine casualty incident is the preservation of human life. And unfortunately, we're entering the phase where we can start to ask the next questions. So I think we are getting to the point of wondering how, not just trying to recover those who at yesterday's time may have still been alive, but now seem, unfortunately, most likely to have perished in the cold waters after this incident.
Right. And Dr. Rolby, we now know that all crew members were Indian. Crew members, as well as the owners of this ship, are cooperating with local authorities. What happens? They sent out a mayday, but in a situation like this, from your expertise, what happens in a situation like this before something like a collision like this happens, or after they send out a mayday? Can you just walk us through the process?
Absolutely. And I have to say my heart goes out to the people who were on board that ship, the Indian crew as well as the Baltimore pilots, because this would have been a harrowing experience. And one of the scariest things you can experience is the loss of power on a ship, especially at night when it is pitch dark. So that crew would have been absolutely panicking the moment the ship went silent. All engines going down is the eeriest quiet you could imagine, and they would have known something was horribly wrong, and they would have been looking at every option they could to make sure that in this case it's technically an allision when a moving ship hits a stationary object like a bridge in this case, and they would have been trying their best to avoid it. And they obviously dropped anchor and they sent out as many warnings as they could. And to be honest, we are thankful for that effort, because without their mayday calls to the workers in Baltimore who were able to then stop the traffic across the bridge before the collision occurred, we would likely have had far more loss of life given the traffic that does traverse the Key Bridge, even at that hour. So they would have been looking at every option. And we see black smoke coming out of the vessel. It is likely, it's unconfirmed, but it is likely that they were trying to back down. They were probably putting the engines in reverse. Prior to arriving at the bridge, they were going about 8.5 knots. When they hit, they were going 7.5 knots, which is still very fast. And so they were trying everything they could, dropping anchor, reversing, backing down to stop. Unfortunately, by backing down, you lose some of the control over the rudder and propulsion systems in terms of directing the ship. So they were likely torquing and out of control a bit. And so it became just an unmanageable situation, and it unfortunately hit in almost the perfect place to create the worst catastrophe we've seen in a very long time.
Dr. Rolby, thank you so much for that analysis, your expertise. I'm going to let you go. Our heart goes out to Baltimore and the state of Maryland, and we'll be following this story very closely. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. We still have our correspondent Caroline Malone from Washington, D.C. with us as well. Caroline, there has been some theories that the use of contaminated fuel led to the energy disruption on the ship. Have you heard anything like that, not only from officials in Washington, but also elsewhere?
We haven't heard any official statements on that yet, no. But certainly you can expect that the investigators will trawl through and look through every detail of what could possibly have led to this serious accident. They'll definitely look at the track record of the container ship. They'll go back and look at previous collisions. It seems that this ship may have been involved in a less serious collision a few years ago in the Netherlands. They'll look back at previous years of checking the ship, the safety records of the ship, and also for the bridge itself. You know, they're going to be looking into the structure of the bridge to see if when it is rebuilt, it should be rebuilt in a different way to the way that it was standing for 50 years.
Was our correspondent Caroline Malone joining us from Washington, D.C. Caroline, thank you for those updates. We'll be talking to you again very soon as we get more information. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.